It is July 21st, 2026, and I'm going to tell you about Alejandro Balde and why he's training separately. It has to do with his future. Also, Barcelona are moving for Aymeric Laporte, someone who a lot of you have requested. And finally, J. Jordi dropping the bomb, several bombs, and revealing all the truth about what has happened with Julian Alvarez. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Mo and welcome to this quick live that I'm doing today. I was supposed to do a video, but I worked really late, so I don't have time to film, edit, and post. Instead, I'm doing this short live. This is not a podcast, so unfortunately, I won't be reading your comments and reacting to them. This is just to bring you the news. But don't worry, because tomorrow is podcast day. So tomorrow I'll go through the chat section. But now let's begin with the news, because Barcelona have announced a collector item. A collector item, which is this t-shirt that you see on your screen. If you don't know what that t-shirt is, Barcelona have now won 50 European trophies. 50 European trophies across all their teams. And to commemorate this achievement, this milestone, Barcelona have launched this limited edition collector's item. It has the year of every European trophy. Of course, the Champions League for the first team, Champions League for the women's team, then all the European trophies for the basketball team, hockey team, handball team, and then indoor football team. So if you want to get your hands on this collector's item, you can buy it. I haven't checked the price, but I know it's on the Barcelona store. It's not really my style, so I didn't even bother looking into it. But it is available if that's something you're interested in getting your hands on. Now, speaking of announcements, I do have an announcement regarding an announcement. If that makes sense, it will in a little bit. But it's being revealed now that Karim Adeyemi, ladies and gentlemen, will be officially announced on Thursday. Yes, Thursday, Karim Adeyemi, of course, became Barcelona's second official signing, the first one being Anthony Gordon. And Karim Adeyemi is coming from Dortmund, the 24-year-old attacker coming from Dortmund after refusing to renew his contract with the Bundesliga club. His contract that had a year left on it, it expired next summer. And of course, he insisted on coming to Barca and Barca only. And well, his dream has become a reality, as Barcelona have signed him from Dortmund for 22 million euros fixed plus 7 million euros in variables. He arrived in the city of Barcelona last Wednesday. He reported to medical exams the following day, where he passed them. And then there was a delay in his presentation, or a delay in the official announcement, because of some bureaucratic problems, some paperwork that needed to be finished. Plus, Jean Laporte and Deco were here in the U.S. for the World Cup, and they also wanted to be present at the presentation. So all that together continued to delay Adeyemi's presentation, but now they're saying that Adeyemi will be presented on Thursday. So on Thursday, expect an official announcement from the club making this signing official, even though it doesn't matter if the announcement comes Thursday, next week, next month. It's all done. The player is a Barca player, but of course, we'll await the official presentation. Of course, Anthony Gordon was officially presented before the World Cup, so this will be the second official presentation. Now, speaking of official, of course, I told you several weeks ago, and I confirmed it again yesterday, that Barcelona have signed Jesse Bisiwu. It was confirmed today by Fabrizio Romano. So, Fabrizio, thank you for confirming something we already knew weeks ago. By the way, I love saying this, because every time I say something like this, all the Fabrizio Romano fanboys just go crazy at me in the comment section. No, you're just jealous. You're being a hater. Blah, blah, blah. You need to be humble. So I love trolling with people. But anyways, I love trolling people, I should say. But anyways, Fabrizio Romano has confirmed the signing of Jesse Bisiwu. So again, thank you, Fabrizio, for confirming what we already knew. And then let's move on to the next bit of big news, because speaking of signings, or preseason, I should say, we need to talk about the future of Alejandro Balde, because today he was not seen training with the first team. He did separate training. And if you're wondering why, well, I'll tell you why. And this could also hold the answer to the future of the player, because as you know, there's been a lot of speculation about the future of Balde. Of course, he did not have the best of seasons last season. And then there was news about Barcelona open to hear offers. Not that they were placing him on the market, but if a big offer would come for him, they were willing to listen to it. So there's a lot of speculation about whether Balde would leave or stay this summer. But we could get our answer from this news that I'm about to tell you. Now, the reason why Alejandro Balde did not train with the team during the second session, he trained separately, is because he is doing an individual fitness program. This is a special training program that Barcelona have tailored to Alejandro Balde in order to manage his physical condition. Why? Because Alejandro Balde, of course, is a player that very muscular, very explosive, and of course, players who do usually have a large muscle mass, they tend to get injured a lot, right? They get a lot of muscle injuries. So Barcelona, more specifically Benjamin Kugel, right? We talked about Benjamin Kugel. This is Hansi Flick's latest addition to his team. Hansi Flick was not too happy with the former head of the physical fitness, who was, I'm blanking on his name, but he's going to stay at the club. He's going to work with Barca Athletic Juvenil A. But Hansi Flick requested the signing of Benjamin Kugel, who's going to help with the fitness of the player. And then Kugel has been tailoring programs to specific players, right? Because this whole one-size-fits-all doesn't work best for all players. So this is one of the first personalized training programs that Kugel has come up with, and it's for Alejandro Balde in order to manage his physical condition, because as I said, he's a player with a large muscle mass, and those players tend to get injured a lot more and have a lot more muscle injuries. So they've tailored this program to him to help him avoid injury so he can stay healthy longer, and also to recover his form, right? His level, because prior to this season, Alejandro Balde was one of the best left backs in all of Europe, right? And Hansi Flick knows this. And Hansi Flick wants to count on Alejandro Balde. Hansi Flick knows what Balde is capable of, unlike many of Barcelona fans, who thankfully are not coaches and have no say in who the team keeps or sells. But Hansi Flick has requested that Kugel tailor this program to Balde so he could be healthy and he can recover his form from prior seasons, because let's not forget, Balde is only 22 years old. We haven't even seen the best from him. And the fact that he was able to bench Jordi Alba at 18 years old just tells you what this player is capable of. So right there, that news could hold the answer to the future of Balde, because if Flick is now thinking about the long-term health of Balde, well, that tells you that Flick counts on him and he's not looking to get rid of him. Plus, Balde has already said that he wants to remain at Barcelona, so don't expect Balde to be leaving anytime soon, even though, of course, Barcelona are working on the signing of Joao Cancelo, right? So that signing is likely, it's very, very likely to happen. Cancelo doesn't want to go back to Saudi, and he only wants to come to Barca. But despite the signing of Cancelo, Alejandro Balde is expected to remain at the club. Now, speaking of defenders, and this is the big news here, because I know a lot of you probably clicked on this video because you saw it in the title or in the thumbnail. But ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona are moving for no other than Aymeric Laporte, the 32-year-old left-footed center back who just became a World Cup champion while being one of the best center backs in all the World Cup. Him and Pau Cubarsí were the best center back couple in the whole World Cup, which, by the way, is something that's going to blow your mind. Neither Laporte nor Pau Cubarsí have been nominated for FIFA's Best 11 this World Cup. I'll say that again. Neither Laporte nor Cubarsí have been nominated for FIFA's Best 11, which begs the question, who the fuck does this Best 11? Like, I know it's voting, but who are these idiots voting for this? Laporte and Cubarsí, the best center back pairing in the entire World Cup. A center back pairing that has only conceded one goal in the whole World Cup. They're World Cup champions. They only concede one goal. Cubarsí is literally given the award for the best young player in the World Cup, and neither him nor Laporte have been nominated for FIFA's best 11. That just tells you that FIFA has no fucking idea about football. I know the word football is in the acronym, but these idiots have no idea what the hell they're doing. You know who is one of the nominees, by the way? Van Dijk. Can someone explain to me what Van Dijk did this World Cup? Also, was Van Dijk truly better than Laporte or Cubarsí this World Cup? Anyways, FIFA, if there's anyone who works for FIFA that you're watching this, I know they're not. You guys are idiots. I'm starting to think the I in FIFA stands for idiots because that's what you are. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about Laporte being nominated to the best 11 or missing a nomination to the best 11. But let's talk about Laporte because, as you know, I told you the news, I think it was last week or maybe the week before that Laporte had offered himself to Barcelona. It's not the first time that the player has offered himself to Barcelona. He offered himself before joining Man City. He offered himself again before joining Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. He offered himself again this summer. And initially, Barcelona were hesitant because, of course, we do have many center backs. We have an overbooking in the center back position. And Barcelona were only considering signing a center back if a good market opportunity emerged. Well, guess what? Barcelona are now looking at this as a good market opportunity. Why? For two reasons. Reason number one, because Laporte's World Cup performance. Barcelona have, like the rest of us, with a mind or with a little bit of IQ, since FIFA don't have any, all of us were absolutely mesmerized by not only how well Laporte performed in the World Cup, but also how well he did it alongside Pau Cubarsí. And that's very important. Why? Because, of course, Cubarsí is our center back, right? So if we know that two of them can do a good job together in the World Cup, then it's highly likely that they do the same with Barcelona. So that's the first reason, right? Why Laporte is a good market opportunity. The second reason is because it's being reported that his release clause is only 15 million euros. I'll say that again. 15 million euros. 1-5. And if this is confirmed, if it's true that his release clause is 15 million euros, then this is a no-brainer. Barcelona need to pay those 15 million euros and they need to sign Laporte, because one of the problems I told you about when I first mentioned that Laporte had offered himself, I said, of course, a big hurdle in here is going to be Athletic Club de Bilbao, right? Athletic Club count on Laporte. He's a starter for them. He's a key player for them. And there are no relations at all between Barcelona and Athletic Club de Bilbao. They're completely broken. It would be highly unlikely for them to negotiate for a player that they count on. This is like us trying to negotiate for Cubarsí. It's just not going to happen. But on top of that, they have no relationship with us. They hate us. So that makes things even worse. But if Laporte's release clause is 15 million euros, then guess what? You don't need to deal with Athletic Club de Bilbao. All you have to do is show up to La Liga's headquarters, deposit the 15 million with them, and boom, the player is yours. Now, it's reported that Deco already held talks with Laporte's agent in the U.S. while the two of them were here for the World Cup. They had initial talks, and during those talks, they agreed that they would revisit the whole operation after the World Cup. Understandably so, Laporte was focused on the final. The last thing on his mind was where he was going to play next. So now that the World Cup is over, it's expected that Deco will make contact with Laporte's agent in the upcoming days, maybe this week, maybe next, but talks will happen again because, like I said, in the U.S., they agreed that they would revisit the subject after the World Cup, and well, we are in after the World Cup, right? Now, before you get excited and you go buy a Barcelona jersey with Laporte's name on it, I want to make something clear. These talks that are about to be held between Deco and Laporte's agent are not going to be directly to go sign him. This is first, so Deco wants to get a better understanding of Laporte's willingness to move to Barcelona and what conditions need to be met in order to make this move possible, okay? So Deco is set to talk to Laporte's agent. But this initial talk since the World Cup ended is first going to be to feel out the situation. Okay, Barcelona have not made the full decision to sign him yet. These are just the initial steps. We'll see what comes out of that meeting. If Barcelona go to that meeting and decide, okay, yeah, let's go for it, let's sign him, or whether they go to that meeting and say, F it, we don't want this guy, let's move on. But of course, if you're subscribed to this channel, well, you are going to find out because I will be here to tell you all about it. Now, another important thing is that I don't know why I just lost my train of thought. I forgot. Anyways, but that's the news. Barcelona are making a move for Laporte. There's a talk expected to be held in the next few days. We'll see what comes out of that talk. Now, let's move on to the last bit of news because Jota Jordi just dropped a bunch of bombshells revealing the whole entire truth in regards to Julian Alvarez. If you don't know who Jota Jordi is, it's the guy you see on your screen, a reporter in Spain. He's a constant contributor to that program El Chiringuito, to that circus called El Chiringuito. Someone who's known a lot about this whole transfer about Julian Alvarez. Why? Because Jota Jordi is a very close friend of Fernando Hidalgo. If you don't know who Fernando Hidalgo is, he is the representative of Julián. So Jota Jordi is a very good friend of the representative of Julián. So throughout this whole saga, Jota Jordi has been dropping bombshell after bombshell. He's had all the scoop on what's been going on because, again, he's a close friend with the agent of Julián who's been feeding him all this information. Well, today, Jota Jordi decided that he had had enough with all this circus that Atletico Madrid have been mounting, and he dropped this long timeline exposing the entire truth of what's going on or what has been going on between Julián, Atletico, and Barcelona, which sheds, well, first, it sheds light on what a circus that inferior club is, Atletico Madrid, and also confirms a lot of the things that I've been telling you here on the channel. Now, let's review his tweet. It was in Spanish, but of course, our friends here on Twitter have translated it. Well, not really our friends. It was, I guess it's Grok. I don't know who does the translation. I imagine it's Grok. You just click on translation and it shows you. But this is the summary of Julián's case directly from Jota Jordi's Twitter. Again, a close friend, a very close friend of Julián Alvarez's agent. In February, Gil Marín, this is one of the major stakeholders in Atletico Madrid, promises Julián that he'll let him go to Barca in the summer on repeated occasions. Very important, on repeated occasions. The two of them alone at a lunch in Madrid, right? So right there confirms what I've been telling you here, that Julián did sit down with Miguel Angel Gil Marín and said, hey, look, this is not what you promised me. You promised me a successful project. I want to go to Barca. And Gil Marín tells him, don't worry, bro, I got you. And apparently this happened on repeated occasions. Now, during the season, conversations between Simeone, Mateo's, of course, Mateo Alemany, the sporting director of Atletico Madrid, Gil Marín. Everyone knows about Julián's departure. This to me was surprising. Why? Because, people were acting like, oh, we don't know anything about Julián wanting to leave. He wants to stay here. Well, apparently not only Gil Marín knew about it, but Simeone knew about it, and even their sporting director, Mateo Alemany. More, they asked Julián for discretion and professionalism. The player complies beyond expectations. The player pushes himself to the limit just to play on repeated occasions. Simeone doesn't even care about his condition. This, of course, is another thing I told you here on the channel. One of the reasons why Julián was angry is because during the Champions League, he was actually injured, right? His ankle was injured, and he decides to inject himself with painkillers and play while injured to help Atletico Madrid. And not only does his injury get worse, but he actually arrives in the World Cup injured, and he risked almost missing the whole World Cup just to help Atletico Madrid. And well, this is how they repay him. But we continue. It's been over a year since they promised him a renewal offer that never arrived. So that one I did not know. Apparently last year they promised him a renewal offer. They never arrived. They negotiate with Arsenal and PSG to sell the player. They reach an agreement with Arsenal, 50 million plus Gyökeres. I told you this news before about Atletico negotiating with Arsenal and PSG, which just exposes their hypocrisy, right? They're going around saying he's not for sale, but then they're trying to sell him to Arsenal and PSG. So it's like, is he not for sale or is he not for sale to Barca? Because just say so, right? Don't be a hypocrite and pretend you're not planning to sell him at all and that he's your player and that he signed a contract until 2031. And in the meantime, you're negotiating to sell him to other teams. Julian feels deceived because they promised him Barca and they're negotiating with other teams. Another thing I told you here on the channel. They say they don't want to sell him, but they're trying to use him on the market to sell him and bring in other players using Julian as trade bait. Of course, you're talking about Jokic. Barca makes a formal offer superior to the market value, the only club that has submitted a real offer. They deny this offer. There is proof that it's real. Of course, not only Barcelona confirmed that this offer was real on multiple occasions, but just recently, Julián, in an interview, admitted that the offer actually existed, but that they were denying it. So why deny it from the beginning just to go admit it later? Like, again, this club is just run by morons. Meetings and conversations between Atletico Madrid and Barca over weeks/months, and Atletico Madrid publicly denies it, but negotiates internally. And again, this is what I told you, that talks had been held between both clubs, but they were saying that, no, there's no negotiation. We're not negotiating for them. Again, why the lies? You're just looking stupid. I know you're trying to look good in front of your fans. Like, look, we're protecting the club's, assets, and Julian is an asset. But why lie? People are going to find out anyway. And now you look stupid. Barca, for Julian's sake, doesn't make it public or talk about everything that's happening. They post tweets mocking not just Barca, but everything they had promised Julian. Remember those tweets were offering Bad Bunny tickets for Pedri and Rafinha and Lamine? The pressure from Atletico Madrid is so intense that the player in the middle of a World Cup comes out to speak just to ask for what they had promised him. This is very important, by the way. This is when Julian in the World Cup says that he wants to transfer. And a lot of Atletico Madrid fans, criticize him saying, oh, look, he's a traitor, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. This was not a player that was upset at a player that he didn't want to leave it. Didn't want to play at his club anymore and just decides to throw a tantrum. No, this is a player that handled it like a professional from day one, gave everything he had to that club. And then when he decided to leave, he didn't go to the press. He didn't make a show. He sat down with them. He said, hey, I want to leave. They promised him, okay, yeah, we're going to let you. And then they did everything else besides what they had promised him. So when he comes out and makes those statements, it's not because he's just trying to force his exit, is because he's just asking for what they had already promised him. And if Atletico had no intention of letting him go to Barca, then don't fucking make that promise. Why would you promise that on several occasions just to go around and do the total opposite? And this is the result of that. This is the consequence. Did people at Atletico Madrid not get taught when they were kids that actions have consequences? Anyway, we'll continue. 2 days before Julian speaks from the World Cup, there are messages in a heated tone from Julián to Julian, where Julian always responded with courtesy and respect. The player and his family have been through hell. The club's media response is an attack on a professional's lack of freedom unprecedented before. Statement from Julián 48 hours before a World Cup final to destabilize Julian. Right, this is where Julián does the interview and admits that Barcelona did make an offer, but that they're not going to sell him for 100, 150, or 200, that Julian is not for sale. And of course, he makes those statements right before the final, which Julian was not too happy about because he's focused on the final, and then Julián drops a bombshell like that. The player cost 75 million, and now he could be sold for 100. Where is the limit on a professional worker's freedom under an employment contract? What would a judge say? And FIFA, and injunction. It's evident that deception by people at the club towards Julian Alvarez for a long time now. But on top of that, the smear campaign against Julian and his circle puts this great club in a very bad light, run by people who are not up to its standards. So I like here what he's doing. What J. Jordi's doing. He's recognizing that Atletico Madrid are the big club, and it's the people that running it are morons. I would argue that both are morons. But anyways, I'm just an asshole, so that's a whole different story. Do they want to keep a worker who wants to leave, who needs to leave, who isn't well at the club, who has always behaved impeccably just because he wants to go to Barca? Do they want to hold on to a worker by appealing to an abusive clause that any judge, given the existing reasons, would question? I don't know about a judge questioning the release clause. That's what he's talking about. After all, both Julian and Atletico Madrid entered into this contract freely. So I don't think a judge would really question the release clause. I mean, if you weren't okay with the release clause, you shouldn't have agreed to it. You should have negotiated a lower release clause. But anyways, that's just the lawyer in me coming out. Okay, poor player, poor professional, poor worker. And a warning to all players who go to this club with these executives. This is very important. I don't think Atletico Madrid are realizing what they're doing here with the whole Julian saga, promising him to leave and then try to sell him to other clubs, making a mockery of the whole thing with statements, with media campaign, with stupid tweets, only to later admit that, yes, there is an offer. Because what message is that sending future players who might sign for you? That the moment they decide to leave, you're going to hold them hostage and you're just going to turn it into a circus. And finally, Gilmarin has turned the will of a worker who always complied and who could bring economic benefit to this club into a personal ego battle to please 4 fanatics and get 4 retweets on social media. What a shame. So there you have it, folks. J. Jordi dropping the hammer and revealing the entire timeline and exposing these Atletico executives for the clowns that they are. And of course, my question to you is, what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comment section. And with that, it's a wrap. I got to go take out my dog. Got to go to sleep because tomorrow I have to be up early and go to court. I like going to court, but not for this case. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and then I will see you guys in tomorrow's podcast. Have a good night. And as always, peace, Garza.